My dear friends, welcome to the 52nd class of the Bhagavad Gita. We are studying chapter 6 and today we are going to end chapter 6. In the last class, we studied from verses number 33 to 40, and as always, we shall revise quickly what these meant. So before shloka number 33 began till 32, Krishna was explaining to Arjuna the importance and the necessity that why the senses should be controlled, that the mind must be controlled, and you should become a master of your own mind. Then also he said that you must try and see God in everything and everything in God, and one must also see everyone with equal vision, whether it is a friend or a foe or whoever it is. So with that equal vision one should see. And then he said one must focus on God so intensely that one achieves the state of blessedness and blissfulness which is achieved by yoga union. So after having explained all of that, now Arjuna has received this knowledge, but he is confused and he has few questions. And that is what he addresses in shloka number 33, where he says, Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, owing to my restlessness, I do not behold the permanent, enduring effect of the equalizing yoga that thou hast related to me. So, as a simple devotee is saying, Oh Lord, you have related to me the entire science of yoga. You've told me everything, but I still have reservations because I think my mind is very restless and it's very difficult to achieve whatever you have told me to achieve. Is very difficult. And he says that, how will I attain this? All of this is right. It sounds good, but this sounds to be theoretical. How do I practicalize it and how do I live this teaching? And for this, Paramahansa Yogananda ji gave a helpful advice, because all of us go through this phase where we say that, oh, we are so locked up in so many things and our mind is scattered here and there. What are we supposed to do? So, Master says, the devotee should patiently pray to God until that intoxication of delusive thinking, the intoxication of the restlessness of the mind, it wears off and one becomes calm and one becomes free. So when we are confused, we don't know what to do, when to do, how to do, the simplest way is to just pray to God deeply that he come to your aid and help you to pass over this phase, because like everything in life, each phase will come and go. All meditators know that there are some days which are like we have amazing meditation, but there are some days which are restless. So on the days when you find your mind to be running here and there, stabilize yourself and pray to God. And also I've heard many saints say this, Swami Jyotish said this once. He said that if I'm sitting in meditation and I find that my mind is very, very haywire that particular day, I will repeat my initial prayer. So when we meditate, before that, we should invoke the presence of the gurus. And if in one invocation we find that the mind has not settled, we must repeat our invocations to the gurus till as much as we come to the point where we find that, yes, now my heart is settled and my mind is settled and I can go into meditation. So this is a very simple, glitch that it comes in our, the restlessness is a glitch and the prayer is the hack that you can use to get beyond this state of restlessness. Okay. In shloka number 34, Arjuna continues to point out, he says, verily the mind is unsteady, it is tumultuous, it is very powerful and obstinate. O Krishna, I consider the mind as difficult to master as the wind, and which is so true. And we discussed how the mind keeps jumping from one thought to the other. It is so obstinate and powerful that it even it takes away our power of discrimination. And once it's stuck in a state of negative thinking, it's very difficult to pull it out. And therefore, it is as difficult to control as the wind. And here, Master points out that when Arjuna is talking about wind, this can be metaphorically understood as the breath. So, the air of the breath. So, we know that the mind and the breath are very, very intricately related. And therefore, if we can able to control the breath, then we will be able to control the mind. And the most amazing technique to be able to control the breath, we know, is Kriya Yoga, because Kriya Yoga is a very, very deep pranayam which helps to control the prana. And Kriya Yoga works in two ways to control the mind. First is that is that you get more oxygen out of each breath. It is able to distill more oxygen out of each breath, and therefore the need for breath is reduced. And as the more we go towards breathlessness, the more we will go towards thoughtlessness and mind control. The second way the Kriya Yoga works is that it interiorizes the energy going out into the world. You bring it, the energy and attention in. Once the energy and attention is in, then the data which is coming from the senses inside your mind and disturbing it. So think of your mind as a lake, and it is calm lake. Now suddenly a sensory data comes in and it causes ripples in the lake of the mind. Sometimes the data is so much that it overwhelms us and it brings us past memories and emotions. So there is like a storm actually happening in the mind. So when Kriya Yoga will interiorize your mind, automatically the sensory data will stop and the mind will stop going into the storm. And that is how Kriya Yoga is very, very helpful, and it can be used to control the mind. Shlokas number 35 and 36. Now Krishna says, replies back to this question. The Blessed Lord said, undoubtedly, the mind is fickle and unruly. But by yoga abhyas, means regular yoga practice, and by vairagya or dispassion, the mind can be controlled. So here is the key. So whoever complains that I cannot control my mind, here is the key. Repeat, repeat, repeat your meditation, repeat your spiritual practices, keep at it, keep going your effort, let your effort be sincere from the heart, and it will definitely bear fruit. Don't question it, just don't doubt the technique, don't doubt the guru, don't doubt the teachings, rather doubt your own effort, and keep in fact doing whatever you can to the best ability that you can. It will bear fruit one day or the other. And of course, dispassion from the world is very much required, because on the one hand, if we say that, oh no, I want to go Godward and I want to follow these techniques, but at the same time, I want the things of this world, I want to fulfill all my desires, I want to have so many attachments. These are basically two directions of energy. It's like stepping into two boats going into two opposite directions. So it is important to realize. So that is why for the spiritual path, it is important to have that deep yearning for God and for truth. Because only when you have that deep yearning for truth and God are you able to give away the attachments of this world. Until then, you find them so lucrative, you find them so attractive, you find them so tempting, you think all the pleasure of my life is, in all these things. But it's only when you start to love God deeply and you start to practice and feel the communion with God that you know that all those little pleasures are like, they are worthless. And then you are able to step into the boat, which is the Guru has come as the boatman, and you step into his boat and you follow the techniques, and he takes us home towards liberation. Shloka number 36, Krishna says, this is my word. Yoga is difficult of attainment by the ungoverned man, but he who is self-controlled will, by striving through proper methods, be able to achieve it. So here again, he is asking us to be controlled by, so let the self be the friend of the self. Control your impulses, control the temptations, control the energy going outwards. And also there's a word used, by proper method. So what is the proper method that we are following as a Kriya Yogi? We are following the Ashtanga Yoga Marg of Patanjali. And why is it proper? It is so scientific that, if you think that the soul has descended into flesh, into body, and now the soul wants to go back into spirit, and we know it descends through the chakras downwards and the Kundalini gets locked. And if we want to ascend and we want to go to the spiritual eye and we want to get liberated through the crown, the soul wants to escape from there, then we have to do a stepwise scientific method. And there is nothing more scientific than Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga. So for example, because our energy is going into the world, Patanjali says the first thing you need to do if you want liberation, the first thing you need to do is to stop your energy from flowing out into the world in useless pursuits. Therefore comes the practice of yamas, or don't do this. And he says, so therefore he says non-violence, non-lying, non-stealing, non-greed, non-sensuality. So once you plug these holes, which are major energy leaks into the world, then you will be preserving and conserving a lot of energy. Unless you have energy, and how will you, raise your level of energy, uplift your energy, and then go out through the spiritual eye or the crown. So therefore, first thing, we need to preserve our energy by following the yamas. Now after we have practice the yamas, automatically we have more energy and attention available to us. So Patanjali says, what are you going to do next? Next, you are going to do niyamas. Niyamas is the things that now you must do so that you can uplift your energy and so that you can go towards freedom. And that is why he talks about, cleanliness, contentment, austerity, introspection, devotion or surrender. And then once you start to do these things, you find that your energy is increasing day by day. And not only is the energy increasing, it is harmoniously flowing in your body. Your health starts to get better. You feel better. Your interactions with the world become more peaceful. Your level of judgment and everything, all the negative vices start to get killed as soon as you practice your yamas and niyamas. And once you have practiced your niyamas and you have gained more energy and strength, then Patanjali says, okay, now what are you going to do with the body? You want to exit the body in complete liberation. Now place your body in a stable, in a comfortable position. Sukham sthiram asanam. Let sit in an asana, a fixed posture which is soothing, which is comfortable, which does not draw your attention to the pains and aches of the body, and in which you can sit for a long time in a relaxed manner. Now that you've put your body in a fixed manner, now what are you going to do if you want to free yourself? Then naturally the attention will come to the breath. Now we know that the body is stable, but the breath is moving. It's coming in, it's going out, it's causing turbulence. Every breath is different, and that is associated with the mind as well. So what are you going to do? He says, now go for pranayam. Control the prana or the life force which is controlling your breath. So automatically, then of course, we know Kriya Yoga is a very deep, advanced pranayam. So from there, the deepening of the Kriya Yoga starts. And from here, now once you have gained some control over prana, now he says, what are you going to do next? You are still not free, you're still in the body. So what are you going to do? Then he says, now interiorize your attention. So go for pratyahara from pranayam. Now you have stopped your energy leak. Now you have increased your energy by doing niyamas. Now you have stabilized the body. Now you have exercised control over your prana. Now come to the mind and interiorize your mind within. And from that interiorized mind, he then says, go into dharana. Dharan something means go into single pointed concentration on an inner object or an inner reality. It could be the inner light, could be the inner sound of Om, or it could be any fixed thing inside yourself. It could be the 8 aspects of God. So you start to focus yourself. And when you're focusing is so perfect, it becomes dhyana automatically. So when it is a continuous concentration is flowing in like a river, not broken. So at the stage of dharana, the attention is in a broken way, it is going upwards towards the spiritual eye. But in dhyana, there is a flow of that attention, interiorized attention is continuous to the spiritual eye, so that you can actually penetrate your human consciousness through the spiritual eye. And then automatically the final stage of enlightenment happens, that is samadhi. So this is the proper method. It is purely scientific, and scientific why? Because the results are reproducible. Any human being practicing this science anywhere around the world will come to the same result. And Krishna is saying here, he's saying, this is my word. If you control yourself and if you practice a proper method, then you are going to be free. Then you are going to be liberated, and you are going to be able to attain the sthiti of yoga, the state of union. Then again, of course, once Krishna has said this, and again Arjuna will ask a question. And in shloka number 37, he asks, O Krishna, what happens to a person who is unsuccessful in yoga? One who has devotedly tried to meditate but has been unable to control himself. His mind kept running away from doing yoga practice. So a natural question for all of us. We want to know what will happen if you're not able to achieve perfect concentration and perfect yoga. What will happen to us? And this is the question that Arjuna asks. And he further asks, doesn't the yogi perish like this sundered cloud? Shloka number 38. He says, if he finds not the way to Brahman, being thus unsheltered in him and steeped in delusion, sidetracked from both paths, So the question goes on further. He says, now this person has left his worldly ways. So he's not even pursuing, what people pursue like money, name, fame. On the other hand, he's trying to pursue Brahman, but he's not able to, achieve that also. So does he not disintegrate because he's neither found this nor he's found that? So what happens to him? In shloka number 39, then he says, please remove forever all my doubt, O Krishna, for none save thee may banish my uncertainty. So we know that only God, and Krishna is God incarnate, only he can dispel all our difficulties. In shloka number 40, now Krishna replies to this question. He says, O Arjuna, my son, a performer of good actions never meets destruction, whether in this world or in the beyond. He falls not into evil light. So, in this shloka, firstly, the God blesses all those who are engaged in good work. So, he reassures that no good work is ever wasted. All those who are good are never lost. And second important thing is he addresses Arjuna as his own son. So, he is indicating to all of us that God is our parent and we are his children. And just like we behave with our parents, we demand our birthright, we demand joy, we demand love. Similarly, we can ask of Krishna, just as Arjuna has lovingly asked this, respectfully asked these questions. We too, whatever doubt is there in our heart, we can ask God directly, we can pray to him directly. And if there are certain needs which are important in our life, and there for them also we can pray. So just we can treat God as our parent, a very near and dear relative, the nearest and the dearest rather. And if we have that kind of relationship, then our relationship with God will not be a relationship of fear. It will be a relationship of love. And only when the relationship with God is a relationship of love, then you can enjoy the journey. So it's not like you have to reach a goal and it's far away and it's very difficult. But if you are walking in love, if you have love for the Heavenly Father, for the Divine Mother, then each step of the way becomes beautiful. The journey and the goal become one, and you feel free right now because you have given the burden of your life to God the Father. Okay, so this brings us to the next shloka for today. This is shloka number 41. प्राप्य पुण्यकृतां लोकानुषित्वा शाश्वती समा शुचीनां श्रीमतां गेहे योग भ्रष्टोभिजायते. योग भ्रष्ट पुरुष पुण्यवानों के लोक में प्रवेश पाकर वहां अनेक वर्षों तक रहता है. उसके उपरांत वह पृथ्वी पर एक पवित्र तथा समृद्ध घर में पुनर्जन्म लेता है. A fallen yogi, gaining entry to the world of the virtuous, remains there for many years. Afterwards, he is reborn on earth in a good and prosperous home. Now, this shloka directly and clearly talks about reincarnation, and it talks about the benefits of doing good. But there's a specific word that Krishna has used, and that is a fallen yogi. So a fallen yogi is literally an unsuccessful yogi. So Master says a yogi can be unsuccessful in two ways. And the one way is that because he has not practiced his yoga, he hasn't done yoga abhyas very sincerely, very regularly, very deeply, or because his dispassion from the world is incomplete. So if he's still attached to the world, or he is not done his yoga practice well, then in this case, then whatever opportunity this life has provided this person is lost, and momentarily this person can fall back. There's another reason for which a yogi becomes a fallen yogi, is that even though the yogi is advanced, but there is some previous karma or some egoistic tendency that right before enlightenment, liberation, it just comes in front of him, and he gets confused and he gets lost in it, and therefore also he can be prevented from gaining final liberation in this life. So what happens to such people or such souls? And this is how Master explains, and I will read few lines because I don't want to shift Master's words in any way. Please listen very carefully, because this may be relevant to us, and maybe it has been relevant to us in previous lifetimes where we haven't been able to make it. The fact that we are here on earth again means we haven't been able to make it fully, and therefore we should be aware of what can stop us. Okay, so Master says, advanced yogis who have not attained final perfection get an opportunity to live a prolonged afterlife on beautiful astral planets. At the expiration of a certain karmic period, they are reborn on earth in families of righteous and prosperous people in order to enjoy simultaneously both spiritual and material happiness and to thus walk forward towards liberation. Now, so as he previously mentioned, that the first type of a fallen yogi is that who is, because of incomplete practice, who has not achieved. So what happens to this type of a yogi? Says, such yogis visit other planets inhabited by the virtuous and stay there happily so long as their meritorious karma holds out. Advanced but still imperfect yogis who are disappointed in this world are given a chance to experience the happiness available in the bright astral spheres, or are allowed to reincarnate on other planets of the physical universe that boast better conditions of existence than does our earth. So this paragraph particularly talks about those souls, who are trying to be good, and they are doing their best, but somehow they are not able to go beyond the finish line, and they get so tired of this existence of a human being. And we know that human existence is a very strange phenomenon, and it's totally confusing. And so these souls are given a chance, he says, either to live in other planets of the physical universe, or they go to beautiful astral universes or other planets where they spend some time, and once they are ready to come back, once their karma is done, they come back and they work on forward with their achievement of liberation. So again, he's saying life is present everywhere. Somewhere I have read where Paramahansa Yogananda says that life is present even on the sun. So every particle of the universe is alive, and there's life everywhere. It's just that because we have senses which are limited, we can see only certain frequencies, hear only certain sounds. That is why we see only one frequency or one particular phase dimension of this reality, although life exists everywhere. After living in such spheres, Master continues, the imperfect yogis come back to earth, drawn by the force of their past mortal karma. They are reborn in prosperous, pure families with whom they live in comfort, and at the same time have the opportunity to seek and attain further spiritual progress. In this way, they satisfy simultaneously their innate desires for sense pleasures and also for salvation. This opportunity is justly afforded them because of the good karma they earned in their past life yoga efforts. So again, directly he's saying, if you have made efforts towards God union, towards communion, or towards goodness in your past life, then in this life you will be born in a household which is pure as well as prosperous. So not only will you be, so you will not be worried in this life to to earn money, to support yourself all the time, to take care of you. You would not be craving to get a house all the time, because you will have then time at your hand. Because your family is prosperous, you will have time on your hand where you can now use that for spiritual progress. So you get both material and spiritual prosperity. So again, good karma is never a waste. This brings us to shloka number 42 and 43. These have been taken together. I will read them one by one. 42. अथवा योगिनामेव कुले भवति धीमताम् एतदि दुर्लभतरं लोके जन्म यदीदृशम्. 43. तत्र तं बुद्धिसंयोगं लभते पौर्वदेहिकं यत ते च ततो भूय संसिधौ कुरु नंदन. इन हिंदी 42. या वह प्रबुद्ध योगियों के कुल में जन्म ले सकता है, निश्चित ही इस प्रकार का जन्म इस धरती पर अत्यंत दुर्लभ है। हे अर्जुन, वहां वह अपने पूर्व जन्म के संग्रहित योग के ज्ञान को पुनः प्राप्त करके आध्यात्मिक सफलता के लिए और अधिक प्रयत्न पूर्वक प्रयास कर सकता है। So again, what happens to such a person? So one he said is that he can take birth in a family which is prosperous and pure, or else he says now. So, or else he can be born in a family of yogis, means very, very spiritually advanced people. But although because very spiritually advanced people sometimes do not marry, therefore he is saying that it is difficult to find such a family, but he can be born in such a family, and because of his past yoga practice, that he will again be able to start on the spiritual path very early. So the explanation to this shloka is very, very interesting, and we must be very careful about what we are thinking and speaking and everything, because we'll understand it right now. So what the explanation says, that is at physical death, we leave only the physical frame, only the flesh is left. All that we have gained in our mind, all the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings, the interactions, the whatever, the storehouse of subconscious data that is there, that goes on with us. And therefore, when this soul, now with a causal and astral body, when it takes up another physical body, then all that mental endowment which he was gained in the past is carried forward. And the person starts exactly at the same point where he left in the past life. And all of that, so it's a summative, and it carries forward. And it is said that nothing is lost in death except for the physical body. So be very careful. Only the physical body will go. All your attitudes, your habit patterns, your thinking, your feeling, your fears, your worries, means not of specific things, means but your attitude of being fearful or your attitude of getting angry, all of that will go into your next life. And therefore, don't think that death is going to release you of these bondages. You have to work upon them right now. And then so, till when will this continue? Till we attain final liberation in spirit. This chain of changing bodies and taking this mental endowment onwards and facing the same difficulties in life, that is going to continue. So, not only will the good thoughts and emotions and everything continue, the attitudes will continue, but also the bad. So if you are developing evil thoughts, evil inclinations, things like, anger, jealousy, envy, hatred, all of that is going into your subconscious mind. At death, this will all go forward. And as soon as you pick up, you take over the next birth, next body, at an appropriate age, all of this will start to manifest. So therefore, Master says, no person can blame actually his family, the society, or his circumstances or environment for being bad, because it is he himself, by his own thoughts and actions, who has magnetized himself to such a family which is behaving in such a way. So if we are, right now, if we think we are victim of circumstance, then we must drop this delusive thought right now. It is our own thoughts and actions which have brought us where we are right now. And the good news is that if it is our own thoughts and actions, then if we can change our thought actions and actions, our life will change. If we want to get rid of all the bad things, we can immediately, but first we have to realize that I am the creator. Now, this is a huge responsibility that God is putting on your shoulders, and He's saying that you are creating your own life. You better be aware of it. Now, if you think just by not knowing the law, it's not that the law will not be operable. The law is operable all the time. So, might as well come to the knowledge of the law and see how it works, and then work according to the law. It's only once you know the formula of gravity can you go into space by transcending gravity. Once you know that there is a force which pulls you down, this is the formula to break it, you go beyond it. Similarly, you have to first say, okay, this is the law, how it works. My thoughts determine my life. And now I know, and now by changing my own thoughts, I will transcend this entire system. And therefore, this shloka clearly says that by regular spiritual practice, you should put in spiritual thoughts into your astral body, into your subconscious mind. Make yourself a reflection of divinity. All good thoughts, all uplifting thoughts, all spiritual thoughts, all love towards others. If you feed yourself with this, then this is in the next life, when you get the next body, then all of this will start from where you have left it. So all that you are doing till now, whether it is jap, whether it is tap, whether it is charity, whether it is prayer, whether it is meditative effort, whether it is hatha yoga, whether it is loving others, whatever good you have done till now is going to fructify someday. You will reap what you are sowing right now. Therefore, be very, very careful of every action. We become so casual about life, so casual about saying anything and doing anything, that we don't realize that we will have to reap what we have sown. And Master says that your freedom lies only till you have performed the action. Once the action has been performed, then you have no control of when the results will come, what exactly the results will be, how you will feel after that, and what's going to happen after that. So, but you have full control till you perform an action. Therefore, please pause, introspect, and then act in the world. There is no hurry. And this is the fallacy that we live in. We think it's a fast moving world. I have to do everything in a hurry. But if you're doing everything in a hurry, then you will have to taste the curry that comes after hurry. So basically, therefore, be self-controlled. It's not that you have to do everything slowly. Once you are practicing meditation daily, you will come to that point of calmness where you can take faster judgment and you can come to better decision making. So that does not mean that you are doing things physically slowly, but that means that you're doing it from the depth of your calm and still soul. And from there, whatever decisions you make will be karmically correct and harmonious with the universal laws. Therefore, meditate, meditate, meditate. All that you're doing now will be carried forward. So let me read out what Master says about this. He says, the Lord here relates what happens to the second kind of imperfect yogi. So second kind of imperfect yogi was the one in front of whom suddenly a temptation comes, suddenly a egoic problem comes, suddenly a karmic bomb explodes, and he is, he takes a step backwards from his opportunity of liberation. So to this person who is, he who is closest to liberation, so when an advanced devotee is true to God, towards the end of life, and yet he does not receive complete emancipation owing to some buried past karma, he receives a fresh providential opportunity. He is not to be diverted and longer detained by astral splendors or by the luxuries of a carefree earthly environment like the first kind of yogi, fallen yogi. Rather, he is suitably rewarded rebirth in the home of a great yogi who is also a family man. There, in the company of his exalted parents, he finds no incentive to seek sense pleasures, but tries from his very infancy to achieve the final spiritual glory. This kind of rebirth is very rare because few yogis marry after receiving divine illumination. So, as we said, once you are too much into spirituality, then you tend not to marry, and therefore, such yogis who are also family men are very rare. The divine attainments of a yogi's past lives are everlastingly retained. All seeds of good karma are lodged in the cerebrum of the astral body. When they are watered by remembrances and by virtuous vibrations of the new environment in a new life, they sprout forth and grow into the infinite tree of liberation. Such encouraging words. Okay. So we come to shloka number 44. Purvabhyasena tenaiva hriyate yavashopi sa jigyasurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. योगी को अपने पथ पर आगे बढ़ाने के लिए पूर्व के योगाभ्यास की शक्ति पर्याप्त होती है। यहाँ तक कि सैद्धांतिक योग का जिज्ञासु साधक भी बाह्य शास्त्रीय अनुष्ठानों को मानने वाले से अत्यधिक आगे निकल जाता है। The power of formal yoga practice is sufficient to force, as it were, the yogi on his onward path. An eager student of even theoretical yoga is farther advanced than is a follower of the outward scriptural rites. And we'll discuss this. So in the first line, it is the power of former yoga and not power of formal yoga. So whatever we have done in the past or whatever we are doing right now is going to, it keeps determining the next future that is happening. So what does this say? So this is basically talking of the power of samskaras. So whatever you have gained, whatever energy you have built up in a particular spiritual practice. Now, what will happen is that suppose you don't achieve liberation and you leave your body, and whenever you get the next birth, so one is that you will either get a next birth in a pure and prosperous family, or even if you are further advanced, you may get birth in a yogi's family or spiritually advanced family. And then whatever that samskara was there, it will, even without your will and volition, it will drive you towards spirituality. And Master says, even from infancy. So we find certain souls, if you look around, you find certain people who they are so inclined towards spirituality from the very, very childhood. So many people just know they don't want to marry, they want to become monks. And we know so many spiritual organizations where people join monkhood at a very young age. So not only I have met few monks, but there was this particular incident few years back. I went to Vrindavan, and in Vrindavan, we were in the Radha Kund area, so Govardhan Radha Kund area, and there I met a boy who was 16 years old at that time. But then my guide was telling me, we were conversing with that child, and the guide was telling me his story that this boy came with his family first time to Vrindavan when he was about 8 to 9 years old. And he so fell in love with that place that he refused to go back home. And then his family thought, okay, maybe, his fondness will grow away slowly. So a few of the relatives stayed with him in Vrindavan. But then it was time to go back home and he refused. He did not want to go at all. They forcefully took him, but after some days he came back again. And then some more people from his village came to take him. And again, he refused to go. And then finally, a whole group of people came. They actually tied him in ropes and put him in a small truck. And they were carrying him towards his village. And just like, in a very, very filmy way, a railway track crossing came. The truck stopped. This boy was able to remove the ropes out from his body. And he was able to escape. And he was, now living in that Radha Kund area. And I simply is appearing a very, very smiley child with a sparkle in his eyes. And I asked him, I said, are you happy? He said, yes, yes. So from the very childhood, now suddenly why is this child behaving from a child who is in the urban setup and going to school? Because he has had those samskaras of, probably he has spent so many lives in Vrindavan, probably he has been a Radha Krishna Bhakt for so many lifetimes, that in this lifetime, the very first feel of the energy of Vrindavan, he just feels his own. And he doesn't need to do any extra work to follow that. On the other hand, there may be some people that, who come later in life. So don't think that if you have come later in life, then your samskaras are not good. The fact that you have drawn a God-realized guru in your life means you have great samskaras. You have very, very, very good karma. That's what Master said. You need very, very, very good karma even to want to know God. So, and then you may ask your question, then why did I not come, early in my life? Why did I have to go through so many tribulations and I came in my 30s, 40s, 50s, or even 70s, 80s? It's because we had some karma to resolve. We had to learn certain lessons. We had to be ready before our past samskaras of good karma or past samskaras of yoga practice could suddenly, could actually fructify. So important thing is not to compare, but it is good to observe around and to know that these principles do work. In fact, the law of reincarnation is the only law which helps to explain the things happening around us. And this was one of my questions when I came on the spiritual path. This was my huge question in mind. Why is somebody so rich? Why is another person so poor? Why is someone so healthy? Another one is not so healthy. One is suffering. One is enjoying life. We give same medicine to two patients with same problems. One survives, one does not survive. So what is all this happening? And of course, it's only when you read, once you read the Gita and you read it over and over again, the truth of reincarnation just dawns upon you. And also it dawns upon you because your soul does know that it has lived many roles and many, lives previously. That as you deepen in your meditation, you may have certain glimpses of your past life. You may have certain dreams of your past life. So, and also you have read and you know that these things are, of course, they are true. They just become so naturally correct to you, and you know that there is no other explanation. So then Master explains about this. He says, as past evil karma powerfully stimulates a man to indulge in sense pleasures, so strong past habits of God communion compel a reincarnated yogi to seek divine union. Therefore, it is the duty of all seekers to do as much spiritual sadhana as they can, because when they take a new birth, they can rise to higher and higher planes of self-realization. The spiritually inquisitive person who with sincere eagerness takes up the study of yoga, the science of sciences, receives more benefit than does the devotee who mechanically practices the exoteric ceremonies enjoined by the Vedas. So the Karma Kand portion of the Vedas tells you about superficial outward rituals that should be done. But then, of course, the Jnana Kand part of the Vedas tells you about the inner truths. And this shloka clearly says that person who is practicing the inner religion and the inner science is greater than the person who is only doing superficial, activities outside. And also, there is a specific word that has been used in this shloka, just Shabd Brahmati Vartate. So, Shabd we know is the sound of Om, and it is the representation of God or representation of Brahman. And so, this shloka also metaphorically means that a person who is in tune with the inner sound of Om and can merge with that sound of Om is higher than a person who just chants the syllable Om outside from is just verbally. So from better than a verbal chant is a mental chant. Better than the mental chant is actually feeling directly perceiving the sound of Om through techniques of meditation which Yogananda ji has taught, and that is the higher thing. Also important to understand here is that an ounce of practice is greater than tons of theory. That is what Vivekananda ji said. So if we keep reading the scriptures and then we keep the book on the shelf and we do not practice what is being taught, then it is all worthless. Even Yogananda ji said this, that 1 hour of deep yoga meditation in which you have communion with the infinite is greater than the scriptural study of an entire lifetime. So the scripture is important. Why? Because it tells you that this is the goal, this is how you achieve it, this is the ideal behavior, these are the ways you can achieve it. But once you have read it in the scripture, then you must walk the path. Then you must live the scripture, because only then that realization is going to come. Always remember that enlightenment has been talked of as self-realization and not really intellectual knowledge of the self. It is actually becoming one with that infinite self. That will come with practice, that will come with direct experience, and not just by intellectually merely reading up. This brings us to the next shloka, shloka number 45. Excuse me. प्रयत्नादत्तमानस्तु योगी संशुद्ध किल्बिषा अनेक जन्म संसिद्ध स ततो याति पराम गतिम. प्रयत्न पूर्वक अपने पथ पर चलते हुए अनेक जन्मों के प्रयासों से सिद्ध शुद्ध हुआ योगी पापों से मुक्त होकर वह अंततः परमानंद में प्रवेश करता है. By diligently following his path, the yogi, perfected by the efforts of many births, is purified and purged of sin, and finally enters the supreme beatitude. So, what is being said here? So many births have been talked here. So the shloka is saying that you've got to work diligently. Secondly, it says you have to have purity of heart, because as Jesus said, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And when we say pure heart, means we have left all desires of the world, and we have the desire of truth, of our own self. And then once that is there, and the yearning for truth is there, then our chitta is purified, and then we need to do diligent practice. And then thereafter it says, even then also it takes many births. So let me just read what Master says. He says, a good yogi is he who follows the spiritual meditative path with gradually increasing speed and with non-attachment. With steady thoroughness, he renounces material attachments, and with intense mental alacrity, he seeks God communion. Okay, so now comes the metaphysical meaning of this verse, and when we're talking about birth and death. So, what Lahiri Mahasaya explains is that, after death, there is a period of restfulness, and then again another body is taken up, and then the process continues, and it takes many births and many deaths of staying in that calm, peace, poise of the self, that one finally gets established in the self. So what Lahiri Mahasaya says is that he compares each life to each breath, and Guru Nanak Dev Ji also did that. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji said that once your breath leaves your body, every time you breathe in and breathe out, you do not know whether the next breath will come in or not. And there is a kind of a very short pause between the exhalation and the next inhalation. So, and this can be compared to the state of death. Even in death, we know that physical death, what happens is the patient's breathing becomes a little erratic, and then he finally takes a long exhalation and the soul leaves the body. And when the birth happens, we know when the baby is born, this first cry is indicative of the first physical breath that he takes. So with exhalation, there is death, and with inhalation, there is birth. So each of your breath can be considered as a new life. And especially if you are practicing Kriya Yoga, if you are using the Kriya breath, then automatically there will be pauses in between the exhalation and inhalation. There will be a control of inhalation and exhalation, and you will be coming to a state of stability, of stillness, of calmness, of peace in yourself, which is the state of final restfulness. So the more you practice Kriya Yoga, the more you are able to come to that steadiness, and the more the number of births and deaths are reduced for you. And that is why it is what has been told to us is that one cycle of Kriya Yoga can be equal to one physical year of the solar earth. So as the earth goes around the sun, so one Kriya breath can equal to 1 year of progression, spiritual evolution. And therefore practicing Kriya, it will become automatically the airplane route to God. Because with every new birth, that means with every breath that you're taking, you are controlling the prana. And with every death, with every time you are exhaling, you have already harmonized the prana, and you have brought it, when you balance the prana and the apan, as we know scientifically, then you will rest in the sushumna, and there you will go towards enlightenment. So therefore, there is nothing more scientific than this particular science. That is why he says it is the science of all sciences, and this will take you to liberation. So even in one lifetime, if you do your Kriya practice, it will really, really hasten your evolution. And as said in the autobiography of a yogi, Master has promised that a sincere Kriya yogi can achieve liberation in this life by either 3 years, 6 years, 12 years, 24 years, 48 years, or max 96 years, that is 2 lives. He can attain liberation as compared to millions of years of normal living, and even he says thousands of years of righteous living. Even that is too much, and therefore Kriya Yoga is the airplane route to God. And thanks to the Guru that many of us here are Kriya Yogis, and those who are not, I would say you may ask your heart, and you may find out as to from where you can get Kriya Yoga initiation. We come to shloka number 46. We are left with 2 shlokas, so even if we run a little over time, we will just finish this chapter today. Shloka number 46. Tapasvibhyodhiko yogi jnanishyopi matodhika कर्मिष्यश्चाधिको योगी तस्माद् योगी भवार्जुना। योगी को शरीर पर नियंत्रण करने वाले तपस्वियों, ज्ञान के पथ पर चलने वालों से भी अथवा कर्म के पाथ पर चलने वालों से भी श्रेष्ठ माना गया है। हे अर्जुन, तुम योगी बनो। The yogi is deemed greater than body discipline ascetics, greater than the followers of the path of wisdom or the path of action. Be thou, O Arjuna, a yogi. So, great advice by Sri Krishna. And now, interestingly, Krishna does not say to Arjuna, "Oh Arjuna, be a teacher, be an engineer, be a doctor, be a CEO, be a lawyer, become a judge, become a parliamentarian, become the president of this country." He says, "Be thou a yogi." Why? Because only when we become yogis, yogi is one who is able to unite his soul with spirit. Does he actually fulfill the purpose of his life? The purpose that we are born in bodies is to actually realize that we are beyond the bodies, that we are born in this mortal life only to know that we are immortal souls, that we cannot die. So to realize that truth, we have come, and all the other paths are actually bypaths, or they are lesser paths, and that's what he says. And he talks about that you being a yogi is greater than the ascetics, because there are ascetics who will do tapasya, they will do outwardly they will renounce things, or they will do certain things with their physical body, but a yogi who practices the inner science is greater than the ascetic. Then he says even the path of jnana yoga is difficult because it involves intellectual reasoning about the self, which can be confusing and needs very hard preparation to become a jnana yogi. So practicing inner, meditative yoga is greater than the path of jnana yoga. And then he also says even the path of outward action, which is karma yoga, and that is also, it's a circuitous path. It takes a long time to purify your chitta by doing karma yoga. And again, inner science of Raja Yoga is greater than that. But also he says that the Raja Yogi, means the one who is meditating, is automatically goes through these processes. So initially when the meditative person is sitting and doing Kriya Yoga, he is automatically a karmin, means he is doing some karma yoga. Then as he progresses and he becomes steadfast, and he is able to focus at the point between the eyebrows and see the spiritual eye, then he automatically also becomes an ascetic, because he's doing the tapasya of focusing his energy. And then finally when he gains the sense of oneness with the universe, actually attains the state of yoga, he automatically becomes also a jnani, because that wisdom of oneness dawns upon him. So from the outset, means all these other paths appear to be more difficult, more circuitous, and more chances of falling. But the path of Kriya Yoga, the path of an inner practice of meditative technique or Dhyana Yoga, is supposed to be relatively, it's very, very scientific, step by step, and it takes you like in an airplane towards God. Okay. So just a line from Patanjali. Patanjali says, the yogi who makes keen efforts without being impatient, he who possesses devotion, vital energy, recollection of his true self, discrimination, and calm persistence in deep meditation, achieves emancipation in a short time. So here is the formula. So the entire formula has been given. Now it is our perspective, whether we think it is easy to do or whether we think it is difficult to do is our perspective. Every situation is neutral. Whether we think of it as good or bad or difficult or easy, it is our perspective. So very simple, if a child is very well prepared in exam and you ask him after the exam, how was it? He would say it was easy. But another child who was not at all prepared in the exam, the same question paper, if you ask him after the question paper, exam is finished, he will say it was very difficult. So it is a matter of preparation, it is a matter of perspective. If you want to have this, if you want to feel that the exam of life is easy for you, then you might as well prepare for it. And of course, you will feel that it can be easily done. In a short time, you can attain emancipation and you can attain moksha. Okay. This brings us to the next shloka and the final shloka of this chapter. And this is how it goes. Yoginamapi sarvesham matgatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajte yoma same yukta tamo mata. जो भक्ति के साथ स्वयं को मुझ में लीन करता है, अपनी आत्मा को मुझ में तल्लीन करता है, उसे मैं संपूर्ण योगियों में सर्वाधिक साम्य अवस्था धारण किया मानता हूं. He who with devotion absorbs himself in me, with his soul immersed in me, him I regard among all classes of yogis as the most equilibrated. So here comes one of the most important elements of spiritual life, and that is Shraddha, that is faith. And so God is the supreme self of all beings. And God, or Krishna here, is the one who controls the power of Yoga Maya. By his own power, he has created this power of potency of separating things and making them appear as different. So it is only when we have faith in the power which controls Maya can we actually go across Maya. It's very simple again. So if we, just as Master would say, that when you go to a palace and you're looking into the gardens, you're looking into the alleys, and then you get lost there. Instead, go straight to the king and meet with the king, and he will show you the entire palace. So similarly, with love for God, by absorbing yourself in God, by prayer to God, by meditation upon God, having full trust in God, he's the king in this entire kingdom of the universe. Once you have realized that he is your own, he's your friend, he's your father, he's your mother, he's your beloved, then he will hold your hand and take you and tell you what this kingdom beholds. And he will solve all your problems. He will clear all your doubts, and he will take you through this entire journey. And as we said earlier, the journey and the goal will merge right there and right then. And therefore, it is important that we do not forget that devotion or Ishvara Pranidhan, that is surrender or faith, is one of the, or mainly if that is the only ingredient, even then everything else will work. But if you have everything else mathematically sought out, but there is no Shraddha, then again this formula will not work. And Krishna is very clear about this. He's talked about the entire technique of meditation. He's talked about so many things in this chapter. And finally, he says that you should have, trust me. That's all he's saying. He's saying, trust me, love me, and be absorbed in me, and you will attain that final liberation. And of course, prerequisites of that is that you become a disciplined child, you do what it takes. And then side by side, if you trust him, if you love him, then he will take care of you. And he's already said that you are my son, and he's already said that that my devotee will never ever be lost. So just a few words by Master here says, the Lord is emphasizing that Raja Yoga or a Kriya Yogi who with devotion withdraws his life force and mind from the body, and who unites his ego with his soul and his soul with the ever blessed spirit, and who can maintain constant ecstasy with the infinite equally during action and meditation, is the highest of all yogis. Kriya Yoga teaches the householder as well as the man of renunciation to commune with God as his first duty, and then to perform all proper physical, mental, moral, and spiritual duties with divine consciousness directed by God alone. So with this thought, we come to the end of this chapter, and we read the sentence that is we say after we finish a chapter. This is Om Tat Sat. In the Upanishad of the Holy Bhagavad Gita, the discourse of Lord Krishna to Arjuna, which is the scripture of yoga and the science of God realization, this is the 6th chapter called Dhyana Yoga, or union through meditation. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Let us share the blessings and the power we have received by the grace of the Guru and by the grace of Lord Krishna. Let us share these blessings with souls everywhere. Let us pray together. Divine Mother, beloved Krishna, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing presence in all bodies, all minds, and all souls. Divine Mother, beloved Krishna, great Gurus, may thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.